You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network. Now the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Doctor Who After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Doctor Who After Show.
Hey guys! Bing is for doing, and we are here doing another Doctor Who wrap-up show along with a dance.
Yes.
I think we
From
should
Roth
do
and
the,
Matt.
I love this sweet, sweet MIDI style.
I know. We should do the 80s dancing for the 80s episode.
The robot? I think that, yeah, I'm not doing that. I can't do the
Do
robot.
the android.
All right, guys, this is the 21st season, episode 6, The Caves of Androzani.
Yes.
Very
the
popular.
4-part episode. Oh, this is just really MIDI, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so MIDI. It's so MIDI. It's a MIDI-dazing.
Midi-azing.
Oh, God.
Mid-azing.
This
All
is
right.
a 2010 version.
Okay.
Club MIDI.
Wow.
Club
Wow.
MIDI.
Oh, that's
Club
just...
MIDI.
That's
Everybody,
just intense.
welcome to Club MIDI.
Welcome to Doctor. I think that we should start by acknowledging the following thing.
Okay.
That Matt here
Yes.
has some familiarity with the classic Who.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for you. For myself, I am obviously a Whovian, a huge fan of this iteration of Who. But this has been my introduction
Yeah.
to classic Who.
I've seen many pieces of Classic Who,
yeah,
but this
little,
is my
but
first
this is the
real...
first like full
yeah.
like all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for everybody out there, you know us. We love the show. We know a lot about the show, but you know, a lot of people out there, I think, are like us, where we got introduced to the show through the present iteration, and now it's time, since the show is currently off the air,
Yes.
to go back and take a look at Who past and really come to understand
The
this
ghosts of Who
great
past.
history. Yes.
Absolutely.
The
Yes.
ghost of Christmas
The
past.
Ghost of Who Past.
And-
Before we start, I think we should introduce ourselves because, guys,
Yes.
we love it when you live tweet us during
Yes.
the show. And we really
Yeah.
appreciate it because you guys have been doing that a lot. I am Jenna Busch. It's at Jenna Busch, B-U-S-C-H, like the beer, not the president.
I am Matt Lieberman, at Matt Lieberman, MATTLIEBERMAN.
Say that 10 times fast. I am Jennings Roth Cornet, or J-Ro, and that's at JROTHC, JRothC. So live tweet us for sure. Let us know what you guys thought of the show.
In fact,
please
Father
do.
Wizard just said we sound a little Dalek-y.
We do.
Well,
Exterminate. Sorry.
That's only
Sorry.
because we've been taken over by Daleks.
yes.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, definitely coming back in the second half of 7th season. But regardless.
Okay.
So let's talk. You guys have never sat through an entire episode of Classic Who. I know it's
No.
an adjustment.
It is it not?
Yeah.
It is an intense adjustment.
And it's
Yeah.
funny because you look at other television shows or films from 1984,
Yeah.
and it often, this feels really dated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, I felt the past of it.
I know.
I did.
Dark Bulb, he's a fan of the show. He tweets at us. He tweeted at me earlier. He was like, "Man, I watched a half hour of it, and I just couldn't. I'm sorry. I love you guys, but I can't."
It was
Couldn't do it.
really,
Yeah.
really difficult. I
Yeah.
mean, the production value, a lot of times I can get past that. It was very, very difficult
It
here.
was.
And also, I think there's something about the 80s acting style
Yes.
that
Yeah.
really, really bothers me. And not just with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, it's just that, like, wow, you look like you're on stage in high
It's
school.
very showy.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that the reason is because a lot of those, you know, on sitcoms and stuff. Although I will say this, that there's films from the 70s that have an incredibly naturalistic tone to them,
Yeah.
and so this is really specifically its own thing in a way.
Yeah.
In terms of the production value and the acting style, and it is very theatrical.
Yes.
And I think they were shooting a lot on stages, you
Yeah.
know, and I think that it was shot and they, you know, sort of shot that way. And I feel like they're on location more often. I mean, they're on stages too, certainly now. But they're also on location.
Yeah. Well, also this episode was sort of split up because there was some sort of labor riot.
Yes, there was a labor riot that prevented them from finishing the episode. There were 2 scenes that had to be cut. One was the opening of the episode in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
The whole reason that they go to Androzani Minor is the Doctor talks about he has this bottle collection that he made as a young boy, made out of sand, and his Androzani bottle broke, so they were going there. That's why you kind of have at the beginning
you kind of
that
have a
weird,
half explanation.
Yeah, you have that weird voiceover as they're walking up from far away.
Yeah, that was added later when they decided to get rid of the scene because I guess there were some references to it, to the sand, and they didn't want to use that.
Yeah.
So.
And then towards the end of the episode, when the Doctor goes to get the milk from the queen bat, the Spectrox bat, that like magma creature, like the dragon thing.
The dragon thing, which is really one of my more favorite elements because it had that sort of like TV Clash of the Titans.
You know
totally
what I mean?
Clash of the Titans. Where I was like, I can almost get behind this now.
Yeah.
It's like never.
So bad it's good.
It's never name checked. No one talks about it, and it just sort of disappears because he's supposed to have a final showdown with it that they never got to shoot.
And that's the creature that they discuss. Yes.
Yeah.
But instead we get the teat of the queen.
Of the queen bat.
Which is kind of amazing. Let's talk about the Doctor, you guys.
Yeah, Peter Davison. Now, it's
this is what's sad is that poor Peter Davison, and of course this is a really, I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is a really popular episode among Who fans, and he said had they brought him this kind of a story earlier, he would have stayed on as the Doctor. And he said it was just such a shame because suddenly the story and the directorial style elevated in his last episode.
Yeah, and he said he did regret leaving a job that was, and he went on to do plenty of things, so it was really not a problem, but he was a little worried about leaving a full-time job. And it is sad because if you took this episode, condensed it, smushed it to about half of what it is, and up the production value a little bit, it would have been a really fantastic episode.
There is like a really intense and engrossing story. It's just a clash of style versus substance. Like if this sort of script, if this was being done in the current iteration, I think it would have been a very tense, very interesting episode of Who. Like you have. Like, talk about stakes. The Doctor, in a race against time, he and his companion have been poisoned, and he crashes a spaceship into the planet to go save her, running away from gun-toting thugs.
Gun-toting thugs, I say. You know what but I think what's kind of cool and interesting, too, is that he obviously, I think, just in the reading that I did, it felt to me that he had previously had mixed feelings about his work as the Doctor.
Yeah.
You know, and he asked them to do he asked them to explain the celery in this. He said, "Look, if I'm going to go out, let's have an explanation for this damn celery."
Yeah. And they do it right at the top of the episode.
You know?
Yeah, and honestly, I did plan on stopping to buy celery for each one of us to wear, but we all got stuck in mystery traffic, which is why we started late, guys, just so you know.
Yeah, apologies for that.
Yeah, well, blame the 101.
Blame the 101. But I did think that was kind of interesting because it's like this guy, I had this sense, and I may be projecting, but I had this sense that he was like, wasn't totally thrilled.
Yeah.
You know, with it, and then all of a sudden at the very end they gave him all of the things that he wanted to create a character that he would enjoy.
Well, Who in the 80s, you know, it was when they were sort of like the money was decreasing every season. The BBC weren't fans of the show. It was under a new regime, and they were trying to get rid of it for years, but it was just so popular that they couldn't cancel it.
So they just kept kind of screwing it.
Exactly, which is to the detriment of a really great series.
And that never happens these days.
I know.
Never.
They never try to screw a series off the air.
No, never, ever, ever, ever. But Davison, I think, as a whole, was in the awful position of coming in after Tom Baker's 7-year run.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, who's still, you know, considered to be the #1, except for perhaps David Tennant of all the Doctors. But fans at the time really responded to Peter Davison. He was the youngest Doctor at the time until Matt Smith came aboard.
Who's the 12-year-old doctor?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matt Smith started when he was 27.
Yeah, I mean he's very young and he's very young looking and feeling.
Yeah, but you can see Davidson has a much younger feel to him. I mean, I have seen parts of the Tom Baker stuff, so I mean, I know his style. So, but there was something we were talking about this before the show. There were definitely David Tennant moments. Now, obviously, I know David Tennant got them from Davidson, and then married his daughter. Which is just all kinds of weird.
We've decided is a little incestuous.
A little tiny bit.
Yeah,
that's
just because he grew up as a huge fan of the show. Davidson's his favorite doctor.
He kind of took things from him in his own performance, and then he married his daughter. It's in a strange way incestuously beautiful.
Yeah, let's just, you know what? Let's just take the whole thing. Let's box it up and let's just take it off the table.
Let's take it off the
okay.
table.
So,
remove it.
But there definitely were
it's
things.
Romantic, man.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Kismet.
But there are definitely things that I noticed that were very David Tennant, just little looks and sparks of humor. And I think that's one of the things that
little quips.
Yeah, little things that he's known for, putting this sort of humor into it.
Right.
And you can see in the regeneration at the end of the episode a harsher doctor. Just in one sentence.
Although I would argue, he was kind of rude to Peri.
Yeah,
Wasn't
Colin
he?
Baker.
Colin Baker was a little rude to Peri.
Well,
and okay, go ahead.
No, he's Colin Baker is widely considered to be the darkest and most violent Who.
Right.
You know, his was the first Who to actually kill people.
Right.
Which is something that we're revisiting in the current series, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just such a stark difference immediately with one line. But there's a lot of warmth there, but he's very gung-ho action hero, Davis.
Yeah, I think that it's funny that you talk about the humor because I feel like, to me, Matt Smith is really the one that brought the humor in a big way. Even though, I mean, I think that David Tennant, I think that one of the reasons that David Tennant is so popular, I mean, he's really cute, let's face it.
He is.
But I think that one of the reasons that he really is very popular is because he strikes such a nice balance.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, he's able to sort of go to the chaotic madman in a box places. He's able to go and bring the humor. He's able to go and bring the dark edge. He has so many, and the warmth of the Doctor, and then you know, in the moments where somebody will do something and he'll say, "I loved you for that." You really believe that he did.
Yeah.
But it's funny that Matt Smith now is going, for me, to darker places, even though he was the lightest.
Yeah. I do want to, at some point in our classic Who exploration, after we've seen a few examples of other things, I want to watch a Colin Baker serial called The Trial of the Time Lord, which is where they really explore the dark side of the Doctor. If you remember the Dream Lord episode from season 5, it's oft believed that the Dream Lord is actually the same villain from Trial of the Time Lord, but I won't give too much away.
Okay. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the warmth and the passion, because one of the things I think about the classic stuff that I've seen is there's just not that energy. I'm like, I want to grab them and shake them and say, get interested in what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like watching Peri. You know, other than the last shot where she's got the cleavage hanging over,
and
really,
and
it's like,
he said,
he did say she upstaged him.
She upstaged him.
Well,
for his
I mean,
very last scene.
They were right there.
They were impressive.
But like the fact that he's regenerating, he says it doesn't feel the same this time. She doesn't know if it's really going to happen. She's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I will say this, you
Wake
guys, and not to be mean to Nicola Bryant, who I'm sure was a lovely lady.
I'm sure.
First of all, American, which I was a little taken aback.
She's not American. Did you hear how many times that stupid accent slipped? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
She was playing
an American is what I meant.
And they made her do the American accent during public appearances.
Right. And so playing an American, which I thought was interesting, and I was like, well, way to make the Americans look useless.
Yes.
You know, I really, I don't want to be cruel, but I was really unimpressed with this companion. And maybe it would be the kind of thing where over time she would grow on me. But I felt like usually the companion is really markedly contributing things to the Doctor's life. And I feel like episode to episode, it's pretty clear that they are. You know, you get what Donna brings to the Doctor in each and every episode. It's maybe especially Donna in an odd way. But you know, you get what Amy brought, you get what Rory brought, you get it. And so I was like, what? Like, you're literally eye candy who is now being taken, and he even said, I'm sorry, but it's even the line of, look, it's this beauty and these brains, and they're certainly not in the same package.
Yeah, Sharaz Jek.
Sharaz Jek.
Very, very Phantom of the Opera-esque.
Yeah, and we should say who was actually
villain.
up for that role.
Oh, yeah.
Tim Curry was up for
Mick
it.
Jagger.
Mick
David
Jagger.
Bowie.
David Bowie.
But none of
which
them
would've
could
been
fit it
amazing.
into their schedule.
Yeah, so they got a ballet dancer.
Yes.
But I will say this: I actually, of all of the characters, I actually liked him the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You empathize with him.
He was awake.
Yeah.
He was
really
performing.
performing.
And there was sort of like a sexual, like the Phantom of the Opera, that character needs to have. There is kind of a dark, magnetic, sexual vibe to him.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird, and I don't know what the snake rattle was about.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
I know, and they're just
been living in those caves for too long. The
I know.
Caves of Androzani.
Oh God, there are just moments where he's
They're
like
blowholes.
when he goes like when he's angry and he's like slams the table.
Yeah.
Like, oh, stop. Oh, my God. If I would have been kicked off the stage in high school for doing that.
Yeah. It was a little bit like a late, it felt a little bit like a late night soap opera.
Yeah.
Or really a daytime soap opera.
Yeah.
Guys, he was a very well-known ballet dancer.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
They needed a celebrity.
And he still is.
Yes.
He did move.
Yes.
Like,
very gracefully.
for those of you listening, I'm gesturing wildly.
Yes, in his leather gimp
mat.
suit.
Okay, can we talk about that for just a moment? Is like somebody in the costume department had such a laugh thinking like this guy is totally like an S&M gimp and he's running around our children's show. Like someone was just getting such a kick out of that.
Yes. And the first thing that he does, he just runs his hand over the TV screen.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, that was a little Queen Christina where he pet things a
Yeah,
lot.
he
I
did
know
pick-
that was like a really weird deep movie geek reference, but she
Yeah.
does have that scene where it's not Queen Christina. It's it is Queen Christina, and she just walks around and pets everything. And I was like, we stop touching things.
Yeah.
Put your hands away, you creepy. Oh, Roth
That's-
is petting
all right,
that.
now I'm being petted. This is the voice of a man who's being petted. Hi, me.
Creepily strokes.
You're gonna see me later, and you're just gonna get. Yes. Flag on that play.
Oh,
Thank you
my
very
God.
much.
Well, let's talk about, so not to give people the impression that we don't enjoy this episode, let's talk about the things that we did. Like, this was a really kind of intricate, complicated story.
Yeah.
You know?
You've got three sides to this planetary conflict over this material that can extend
life.
human life to double its length.
Which I thought, here's two things that were interesting to me about that. Like, that's just such a common mythological kind of thread. Like, of course, you know, people often come up with substances in films that were meant to believe that people are going to war for, but it's like, what was it called in
Unobtainium.
Unobtainium, which is just like it's stuff that you need because it's great stuff.
It's great
'cause it's got
stuff,
the
and
best
you can't
ever.
obtain it.
And you can't obtain it, it's unobtainium.
Duh.
So what I liked about this was that, of course, like you would go to war over this like elixir of life.
I might.
But what was funny is that the president who was like, do I look 80? And I was kind of like, kind of,
bit.
you do.
You
Maybe
do a
your
little.
mid-70s.
And they were like,
Give
not
or
a day
take.
over 50. I was like, you've lived a really rough life for 50.
Yeah,
Yeah,
also,
dude.
your hair needs some work. Just
Yeah.
a giant
I
poof.
just
Oh,
thought,
I loved his like Grand Moff Tarkin hair.
Oh, it really was.
casting-wise, I was like, why would you cast someone that looked old
Yeah.
to
Right.
be the example
Yeah.
of how this kept you young? But fine.
But really,
know.
at the core of this conflict, you have Morgus, this businessman, the most wealthy businessman
my
in all
favorite
of the
part.
5 planets. Yeah, go ahead.
no,
okay.
no, go.
All right, so
Explain who Morgus is.
he's manipulating,
Explain
all
both sides.
both sides, and then he's responsible for the third side of the conflict. You have Sharaz Jek,
Yeah.
who used to work for Morgus, got betrayed by him, got disfigured
Right,
by
so
him.
Sharaz Jek is making all these androids.
Right, so that he can prevent Morgus and the government from getting any more Spectrox off the planet.
Right, and then Morgus is selling weapons to the military.
Yeah.
But then he's also selling weapons to the gunrunners.
Exactly.
Right.
And you guys, I'll tell you, this is like what I found fascinating is that because in most, and people have heard me say this before, in really good sci-fi, I feel like really, really good sci-fi does point to socio-political elements of its time. And I think, we were saying, look, in 30 years, this is roughly 30 years ago, a little less, 28 years roughly, 1984. Okay, anyway. So, in 30 years or so, if someone is looking at Battlestar Galactica 2.5 with a new Caprica storyline, who is going to be able to put it together? That, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious, but what that is pointing to is the occupation in Iraq. And that what's really interesting about what they did at that time was take the position of the occupied in a time when in our culture, everybody was looking at it through the lens of the occupier, you know, and so I thought that was brilliant. So what I was like, what was happening in like Britain, you know, because it felt so specific to me that it was pointing to the idea of conglomerates who were selling weapons to both the government and to those who were fighting the government, which is something that really is still relevant in our world today.
Well, 80s England is Thatcher's England, you know, mass unemployment.
Massive unemployment.
There was a depression all throughout the 80s. That's what really led to the punk movement.
The miners' riots. You know, but so there was a lot of economic unrest and certainly opposition to Thatcher. And Thatcher, for many people, felt very authoritarian. What's wrong with? I just mispronounced it. It's not that I don't know the word before you yell at me.
I know, really.
Please.
No one yell at her.
Thank you.
Don't yell at Roth. No yelling at Roth.
This is easy, huh?
Authoritarian. And certainly Reagan here was a whole other side to the Thatcher coin.
You know, it was the Cold War.
It was the Cold War era. But what I was really trying to trace was like, okay, if somebody's really pointing to big business practices and how that's getting really tangled up in the government, and we can look at now, you know, especially with weapons sales. You know, especially with weapons sales and people profiting off of wars. And I thought, like, so that to me was what made this a really fascinating episode, because I was just really into the idea of somebody calling out this conglomerate.
And again, like, I think that there are so many good things you can pull out of this episode that if it were today, you probably would have condensed this down to 45 minutes and made the things a little bit clearer, and it wouldn't have been so wrapped up in like little bits of things on the side. So what you do pull out of it is really wonderful. Also, I have to point out something about the Cylons, I mean robots. That they
androids.
Androids.
Skin jobs. They had skin jobs. That looked exactly like the Doctor. And I mean,
and they were able to build them in 5 minutes.
Really quickly.
I mean,
really fast.
In a cave.
In a cave. It was very impressive technology.
Very impressive. But not as impressive as the Doctor's detective skills. These dice are still warm.
These dice, I wrote that down. These dice are still warm. Really? How long do dice stay? Now, I play D&D, and I can tell you, they really don't stay warm.
Stay warm.
Which means they were playing with the dice like a second ago. So he's good.
He's the Doctor.
He's really good.
He's the Doctor. Now, but also, so the regular androids have like just one little eye. They can only see heat signatures. But the other ones look exactly like people.
Another thing that I thought was sort of interesting was they brought this idea of the red cape in. But why? Like it just was never really explored.
The Doctor and Peri are sent to their deaths, executed in the first 30 minutes of the episode, which is pretty awesome for an 80s show to do that.
Good story.
It was a good, and
it was.
And then they left the audience hanging at the end of that episode, wondering if they really had been shot.
Well, the only thing I can think of as far as the red capes were obviously there to signify that these people were giving their prisoners some kind of respect, but also because as they were shot, there was no blood, and the guy was watching it on his little hologram thing. And I'm like, there's no blood. They're not bleeding. They're not dead. They haven't been shot. Just saying.
They look dead. They fell over.
They're wearing
the capes.
They're wearing a red cloak. It looks like blood.
I think that again goes to kind of the overall production value of it, though. It was like bang, bang, bang.
I think this episode really does like reinforce the themes that we know and love about Doctor Who. It's it's the Doctor without any weapons, without trying to fight anybody, is just trying to survive the machinations of greed
and
distrust and death and destruction.
And betrayal.
Yeah.
I mean, because, you know, certainly...
Sharaz Jek was betrayed by Morgus.
Yeah, and then...
the president
was
betrayed by
president,
Morgus.
pretty much everyone was betrayed by Morgus.
Yes.
Morgus, who does many monologues directly to the camera.
Indeed,
and
yes.
That
it was a misdirection.
Yeah, he misunderstood the direction and thought they had told him to do these. And then they were like, it works.
Well, as soon as I saw him look at the camera the first time, I was like, oh, no.
It adds a Shakespearean element to it.
It's a soliloquy.
Oh, God. But I really think, and it's funny because I was watching it going like, obviously, I mean, this is very popular and people really love it. And I think that what it has going for it is this story.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's really why. Because you've got the like we've said, you've got the Phantom of the Opera, which is always really sort of sad and tragic and interesting because it's like, how much will you become obsessed with the idea of beauty?
Yeah, when it's taken away from you.
When it's taken away from you, that's kind of a thing. You've got the Fountain of Youth. What will you do to live forever?
You've got the two of them poisoned within the first 5 minutes of the episode. Like to me, it's just the stakes have never been higher. Is the message that you get? It really picks up in episode 3 into episode 4. Episode 4, the Doctor crashes back to the planet in an attempt to save Peri at all costs. You know, at the last second, getting this Spectrox milk. Like he legitimately, he was not going to let another companion die because he had just had Adric die, and as he's regenerating, he sees visions of all of his past companions, and the only one that he calls out to is Adric.
Yeah, and interestingly, that was, sorry to interrupt, interestingly, I was reading that they were all filmed separately. It wasn't stuff from previous episodes.
Yeah, it was all
they
new
were
footage.
all filmed, and they had to bring a couple of the actors back who were not on contract to do that.
And the Master, of course, makes an
you
appearance.
need to die, Doctor. Die, Doctor. Yeah.
I just say that my favorite line was, "Those spineless cretins."
Yes.
Sorry.
I mean,
really wanted to do that.
There were things that I really did like about it. I mean, I like I said, but mainly for me, it's all about like who was trying to call out whom in the writers' room. Do you know, like that's kind of the mystery that I want to uncover. And I was talking to Matt trying to figure out what was happening. I mean, we talked about this, but I was like, well, Afghanistan was a little bit earlier, and that wasn't really Britain. That was us selling weapons. I mean, the United States at that time.
You want to know the source of the allegory.
The source of the allegory. I do want to know that. So if you guys know, I'm really serious. If you guys know the source of the allegory or have ideas about it, please comment or tweet at me, because this is what I live for, is allegory.
Yes.
And I'm kind of not kidding. It's so sad. But I mean, I'm really like, I'm really trying, because at that time it was the United States that was really more functioning that way.
Yeah.
In terms of the United States supplying, unless there's just part of British history that I don't know much about, but in terms of the United States supplying weapons to rebel forces, I mean, and it was doing it in Afghanistan that then became the Taliban eventually, and certainly in South America. But anyway, if you guys know what it's all about, let me know.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. I want to just talk about, since you guys have never really been exposed to it, you get to see a brief glimpse of the old school TARDIS.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think? The kind of like whitish, pinkish background. I mean, I'm colorblind, so I can't tell exactly.
Are you really?
Partially, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I that sort of thing doesn't bother me. Old school. I mean, there was a little bit of Commodore 64 on the console.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we're talking about the maps that they have in the caves.
Oh
and stuff,
yeah, the
like,
Atari map.
They were Atari. They were totally Atari games, and you can build a robot that looks like perfectly like a human in 5 minutes, but that's your map.
Yeah,
awesome.
it is,
Yeah.
because they can read it really well. It's very simple.
It is
for
very
a
clear.
reason.
It's very clear. But as far as the TARDIS, like, that doesn't bother me when going back to old school, like even old first Battlestar Galactica, which I'm sorry is almost unwatchable now, and I did watch it as a kid and loved it.
Yeah.
But I don't mind that stuff. That stuff makes sense to me. The technology that existed and what looked futuristic.
Yeah.
What bothered me more was the clothing and the big giant tubing around everybody's clothes. I don't know why that's just the thing.
Yeah. That's just how they dress on Androzani Major.
I liked
it's a weird
the
fashion
War
choice.
Games computer. You know.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I also think it's a little unfair for us to kind of judge the now ancient looking computers,
you
because
can't.
they weren't ancient looking at the time, and now we would look at technology. Probably in 30 years, we're going to look at their depiction of futuristic technology and go, really?
Oh, of course. By the way, Father Wizard says he loves us. We love you too.
We love you too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching.
Yes. But yeah, I mean that's true. I think that's why it doesn't bother me, because when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking iPhones are going to look really stupid in 50 years.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, classic Trek, they didn't even have monitors. It was like pictures with a light behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's sort of, I mean, you have to let those things go a little bit. For me, it was really more the flattened out look of, you know, the style, the flattened out sort of look, the flattened out kind of acting.
Yeah.
You know, those things like that, those bothered me more. And the
I love the magma monster.
I love the monster too.
The magma monster was awesome. I think it's that's a great
here for
trailer.
2 minutes.
You know what it is? I think for me, and I don't know if it's because I started as an actor or if it's just it's the acting that bothers me.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really gets me. Like, just even when we're talking about the one character who is there's a human and an android form.
Salateen.
Yeah, Salateen. And when we're informed that he is a robot, there is some sort of MIDI music and then this look.
Yes.
And you're like, really? Is that what makes you a robot?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, hey,
it's
Jenna.
Evil face. Evil blank
that's
face.
creepy.
Robert Glenister.
Roth is doing the evil robot face at me. I'm concerned.
You know who I actually, the scenes that I probably, that I also enjoyed, now I'm going to pet you.
No.
That's what you get. That's what you get.
I can't win.
For those who are not... For those who are just
our
listening
producer
to this,
is letting us know that he is not amused by our behavior.
Yes, Matt's face is being pet.
What do you guys make of the gun?
That was the petting music.
That's the petting music?
Yeah, wait, bring it back. Bring it back.
Oh, my. No, your whole face is being pet right now. It's really creepy. Guys, if you are listening to this, trust me, you should go and watch it on YouTube.
So, the gunrunners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you? I kind of I mean, it was also over the top.
Yeah.
You know, and just seemingly pointlessly violent.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
like when the mass murder, or the part where he like shoves a suicide capsule.
And
it's like bite it, you're gonna bite it.
And I like that he kept faking him out. You know, he's like, oh, I'm gonna shoot you. Just kidding. No, I really am.
I know. Yeah. But to be fair, the second in command was incredibly dorky. Just go back and watch the parts where he's walking on the cliff. And by walking, I mean lumbering around like a yeti.
Yeah.
Jenna, what you're saying is that he deserved to be shot because he's dorky.
A little bit. I'm so kidding, guys. I am so kidding.
We're all in danger.
I
am
the
too.
rule of law.
I am too.
I don't know if we're gonna survive.
No, I won't survive it.
Jenna's regime.
I wouldn't survive my regime. No, but I mean,
God.
it was just
next we're gonna find out you threw the president out the window.
Might have.
Yeah.
I weirdly liked that storyline because I thought it was like kind of a fun contrast, not fun, but an interesting contrast, because you had this like super spacey, like really over the top, you know, world created on Androzani Major, and of the world of the president, which was like these space age, and then you had like guerrilla rebel suits,
on
in
Androzani Minor,
digging around in the sand,
made of ripped up parkas,
made up of ripped up parkas, and I kind of liked that contrast too. You know, because it was, you know, it was like the little guys over here digging in the dirt and possibly dying in order to get the wares to the small.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I know we're sort of bashing this a little bit, but to be very fair, I have watched shows as a kid that I tell people now to go back and watch, and they're like, "Oh, that's awful," but I remember them differently.
I do too.
If this is just a short example, but I reread The Hobbit recently, which was still awesome, but there were so many things missing that I must have imagined in my head that when I went back, I expected far more description. I expected sort of different things. So I think that's sort of what this is like. If you watch this live, or you watch this as a kid, you know, you're taking different things from it because that is the standard of the time. So you don't know any differently. And so coming back at it from a place where we're seeing these incredible production values. I mean, as far for a TV show.
Oh yeah.
And
especially
acting.
this this last season too, because they're really giving it money.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Really stunning.
Yeah.
And I think too. Well, like I'm saying, there's a lot about this that I like, and I understand why this is one of the most popular Doctor Who episodes. And I agree with you. I will tell people like, "Oh my God, V was like amazing."
Yeah,
you know
it's
what I
hard
mean?
to go back.
Then,
You can never go back again.
Yes, but at the time it was
I
the
won't
scariest.
watch it again.
Yeah, it was the scariest. I tried to watch it again. I don't know. But when I watched it as a kid, I was terrified.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. So please know that when we say all this,
it is with so much love.
It is. It's
because we love this show and we love the Doctor. We love the lore.
Yeah.
And we're exploring it with a sense of fun.
And also too.
Oh.
That's right.
Also too.
Oscar right here.
I don't think
this
that.
face.
I didn't feel like I had enough time to really get to know this Doctor.
I know, and we're
gonna
watch more Peter Davison episodes. We're definitely gonna jump around in terms of like production value and shooting style. I really want to watch John Pertwee's first serial, which was shot entirely on film. It's still the only Doctor Who episode ever to have been shot like a movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like
we'll
to
watch that.
Yeah.
We'll watch that, and I'm sure we'll come back with something else to say.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I don't think, no matter how many times I watched Peri, that she would be a favorite companion of mine.
That's
fine. Yeah. She doesn't do much.
Yeah.
Her
and
hair
like
annoys me.
classic companions, you know, you've got Sarah Jane in the Tom Baker episodes, who we've met, of course.
Yes.
And Ace, who's the highlight of the Sylvester McCoy era, who was one of the best companions
How
they
you
ever
doing,
had.
Ace?
So
Sylvester McCoy, who is playing Radagast the Brown in The Hobbit. Just thought I'd bring that around in a circle.
And it all comes back to The Hobbit.
Circle.
I do think what's interesting about that, though, looking at that, it's like 1984. I mean, it's not that long ago that I thought that it was funny that the sexual politics were so obviously, at least in this little world, we're so obviously ass backwards.
But you know what? I mean, I think that is part of the legacy of sci-fi. I mean, there were people like Anne McCaffrey, in terms of books, like Anne McCaffrey and Andre Norton, and like all these different authors that were going out of their way to change the way women were portrayed in sci-fi. But part of the reason that sci-fi had something of a bad rap for many, many years, I mean, there were a number of reasons, but one of the things was the way women were treated.
Sure, and betrayed.
Yeah, and now you do not
also
see...
in all of cinema and television.
Well, yes, but it was actually a little bit more so in sci-fi.
Well, sure. I mean, listen, I'm not. Don't get mad at me, people.
Yeah, please don't get mad at me either.
Don't get mad at me. But 6 to 7 was, or 7 to 9 was not that long ago.
Right.
And I'm not saying that was a bad character either, but.
Right.
Yeah. Obviously a very...
Yeah. Don't get mad at them. You can get mad at me instead.
Totally get mad at Matt. It's all his fault, what we just said.
I actually talked to her about 7 to 9 and what she thought about, you know, as a mother of daughters, and what she sort of thought of how she rode that line of, like, when does something feel sexually exploitative and when does it not?
Yeah.
And she really took the time and she said, you know, I just feel like if that's all there is to a character, then at that point, that's not okay. But if she's sexy plus all of these other elements, then, well, is there anything wrong with being sexy?
Right, and that's still a debate now, but like at the same time, you don't see a sci-fi movie or TV show without some kick-ass chicks.
It's true.
You don't. But that is still a thing. Is it...
They lead the way in kick-ass chicks now.
Yeah, they absolutely do. So is it a guy with boobs? That's one form. Is it the woman is so strong she must be killed off? Or more recently, we've gotten to women who can exist as really tough women and still be human and still be sexy, and it doesn't matter if they are or not.
Sure, we
still
had
working on
Starbuck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Starbuck.
Everyone loves Starbuck.
Everyone loves Starbuck.
But it is something to consider when looking at older things like companions.
It is. But I mean, and it's funny because when I was watching that, I was thinking about sort of the sexual politics on television at that time, and I was thinking, well, I guess at that time too, you had like shows that were directly dealing with that, like Moonlighting, and also another detective show. Oh gosh, what was the one?
Cagney and Lacey?
No, the great example.
I've got my top man on it. Or possibly bottom.
Woo!
Good
I'm loving the saucy, very saucy
amazing
sound effects.
that you just pulled this out. No, it was Remington Steele.
Yeah.
Which was basically both shows were like the women were the ones that were running the show, but the sexual politics of the time demanded that they have a dude, like a pretty guy, step in and pretend that he was doing anything.
Who would think we would have thought of Bruce Willis as a pretty guy?
But at the time,
he was quite pretty.
Yeah.
I just want to talk real quick about the connections this episode has with the modern series.
Yes.
Just recently in the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, the last Christmas special, there was a whole subplot with a foresting expedition from Androzani Major.
Yeah. I think it's great that the through lines that they have in the old series and the new one. I love seeing that. I think that's kind of, I mean, that's a lot to keep track of, too.
You never
There's got to be a massive bill, like, just dry erase board somewhere.
I know.
Of just, like, rules. All the rules, all lingering things that you can pick up again.
Or I suppose it could be on something digital instead of being on, I don't know.
Like a wiki?
Like on a wiki.
Like a wiki, perhaps.
That's not sincere, although I have no idea why.
Big Bang Theory.
Oh, Sheldon.
Makes me happy. And also, Davidson was in, what was the name of the episode? He showed up with David Tennant.
Oh, Time Crash, which was a Children in Need short.
Which I have not seen.
Oh, it's so funny. I love the Children in Need shorts. Did you see the ones, the more modern ones, Space and Time? With, with Amy and Rory. Those were so fun.
Oh, wait. Okay. Wait a minute.
What?
What, is something happening on Twitter?
Things are happening on Twitter that I didn't even see.
Things are happening.
Ryan Whitallison, and if I am mispronouncing that, I'm so sorry, Ryan. Ryan, my friend Ryan, says the closest thing I can think of is the Iran-Contra stuff, but that was a year after the episode, which makes it very prescient, doesn't it?
That's really
interesting.
It was
just tapping into something that was
tapping
latent.
into something that was latently in the air.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting. And then Father Wizard says, I've watched a lot of old Who, so I'm used to the cheese.
Yeah. Nice cheese plate.
It's delicious.
Oh, and then he also asked us to not be so hard on Nicola Bryant's acting because she had all the clumsy exposition and the bad American accent. But the bad American accent is her fault.
Yeah, you can't really look, either cast an American or don't bother making her American.
Yeah.
The thing is that when I had read that they had her use her American accent for public appearances so people wouldn't know, I was like, I knew in the first 2 minutes.
It was so awkward.
It was terrible.
And I just wondered why they had bothered to make. I mean, I wondered what the point was of making.
Well, we need to watch the episode where he meets her.
Okay.
Maybe there's a very good explanation.
Well, there's a very good reason to have her be an American companion.
Yes, or hire an American actress.
Why you could also do that.
Sorry.
All right, and let's back off. She stepped in a Spectrox nest in minute 2.
I know.
It was downhill from there.
But she was bad with the second she got out of the TARDIS.
I was too, but he also was like, I mean, I thought it was funny. Their relationship, there was not a lot of warmth to it because she stepped into it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what's wrong with you? Well, shake it off.
I know.
You know?
I know.
He just doesn't really
I know. The old doctors didn't have a ton of patience.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
No. But next week, I think the episode that we should watch is it's a Tom Baker episode called City of Death. It's my all-time favorite, shot on location in Paris. You've got Julian Glover, who was the villain in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, is the villain in that episode. Very fun, very cool premise, very light. It's a good episode. It's the episode that that Tom Baker and his companion fell in love in real life. And then they got married. Yeah, that's what happened.
That's adorable.
All right, we'll watch that.
All right,
now you got the O out of us.
Yes.
You did. Now, do we know if this is available on Netflix?
It is available on Netflix.
Okay.
I do not believe it is available on Amazon streaming at this time, but if it turns out to be, we will tweet that at everybody.
Okay. You guys, let us know what you thought. If this is your first introduction to Classic Who, let us know what your experience was like. I'm dying to know if you had some of the same struggles that I did, and I think Jenna did too, with some of the dated aspects of the show. And if you liked some of the things that we really did like and enjoy. I mean, I sat there and I wished this was made in a modern era.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I thought the story was so strong.
That regeneration would have been heartbreaking. He sacrificed himself to save her at the last second. it.
Yeah.
Like that. Really, it's that scene at the end of part 3 where the gunrunners have broken into the cockpit and he's crashing the ship into the planet, and the desperation on his face. I'm like, that's the Doctor.
Yeah.
That's the Doctor right there.
Absolutely.
Now I know what show I'm watching.
That's the Doctor that I want to see. And then going into the next regeneration, he blames her subconsciously. I read that, and that's a little dark and dreary and interesting.
A little bit, yeah.
It's something I kind of probably would have been into watching at the time. But let us know what you guys thought. Did you like it, or were you already familiar? Do you think that we're being too harsh? There is also
a moth in here.
Hello, Moth.
Hello, Moth.
Which I'm gonna
Stephen Moffat.
Oh.
Yes.
That was really beneath
Mascots
you.
on your leg.
That's all right.
All right.
I'm not afraid of bugs.
And then let us know what you're thinking about, what you're fantasizing about for the Christmas
season 7 and the Christmas episode.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, make sure you go to iTunes and subscribe. Rate us, well, please, and leave us comments because we really do read all of them. We read all of your tweets. Again, you can follow AfterBuzz TV at AfterBuzz TV. You can follow me at Jenna Busch, B-U-S-C-H, like the beer, not the president.
At Matt Lieberman, Lieberman.
And I am at JRothC, JROTHC.
And make sure, guys, if you watch Homeland, Roth and I will be doing our wrap-up show in a couple of hours.
Yes,
so
and they're awesome at it, so definitely check it out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this show rocks. All right, and check out all of our other shows.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.